So, the Cowboys still haven't had any contract talks with George Pickens, and I've got some updates on where things stand with our biggest free agent, plus there's another name being linked to us that you need to know about. What's up, Cowboys? Welcome to the NFL Playbook Cowboys. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. This channel is all about breaking down everything you need to know about the America's team. Look, before we get into the Pickens situation, I want to show you something that really puts things in perspective. Forbes just released their list of the world's most profitable sports teams, and guess who's sitting at number 1? That's right, the Dallas Cowboys, with an operating income of $629 million. That's $220 million more than the number 2 team, the Golden State Warriors. The gap between us and number 2 is basically the same gap between number 2 and number 12. I mean, when it comes to profitability, there's no one even close to the Dallas Cowboys. We talk about this all the time, right? It's really hard to find a single statistic, whether it's ratings, profitability, or cultural impact, where the Cowboys don't dominate not just the American sports landscape, but the international sports landscape. There is no brand, no image more powerful than the Dallas Cowboys. Now, of course, a lot of us would like to have a few more championships and a few more deep playoff runs to pair with that brand awareness and that profitability. But still, you have to give Jerry Jones and the Jones family credit for what they've done in terms of maximizing and exploiting the Cowboys' value and bringing up the rest of the NFL with them. So, as much as we want to see championships, and hopefully some changes we've seen this offseason can lead to better performances, one thing is undeniable. The Cowboys are the most powerful brand in sports, and frankly, it's not even close. Okay, now let's get to the massive news. According to Brandon Leray, the Cowboys still have not had any contract talks with George Pickens' agent David Mulligetta, who obviously has connections to Micah Parsons and represents Parsons as well, along with a few other players. Calvin Watkins does mention the team has had preliminary discussions with Javonte Williams, so at least there's one guy they're talking to. Here's the thing, some people are disappointed by this, or concerned by this. I say this is correct from the Dallas Cowboys. You do not begin contract negotiations with George Pickens now. You absolutely do not, because you have the franchise tag and you have a window before free agency even begins to apply the franchise tag. This is negotiation 101. Why would you begin now? You have the most powerful tool you'll ever have in your tool belt, the franchise tag, and that forces the player to be stuck under a certain dollar amount for at least the season, or he can sit the season out. Now, some people out there who don't understand negotiation say, well, you should just pay what he wants now. Absolutely not. That's a situation you can put yourself in where you end up overpaying for talent, like we've seen with Trayvon Diggs, like we've seen with Ezekiel Elliott. How'd that work out? Not great. You have to be smart throughout this entire process. Obviously, you don't want a Micah Parsons situation, but if we're being totally honest, if they flipped Pickens, I'm not saying they would, but if they did for 2 number 1s and a quality starter, Kenny Clark, obviously a quality starter, 2 number 1s for Micah Parsons, I think a lot of us would be okay with that. Maybe not in love with that, but we'd be okay with that. I'm not saying that will happen, and I'm not saying that should happen. I'm saying if that's the worst case scenario here, what happened with Micah Parsons happens with George Pickens, not too bad in my honest opinion. The reality with George Pickens is that the Cowboys have all the leverage. He's had one good season. That's it. In his NFL career, he's had a lot of talent and a lot of highlights, but he's had one productive season. The Cowboys understand that. David Mulligetta understands that, and they have the franchise tag that's going to be slapped so hard on George Pickens, David Mulligetta won't know what to do, and he understands that. He gets it. Everybody does in this process. Seriously, there is no urgency here. They can delay as much as they want, basically 365 days using the franchise tag. The only urgency in terms of key free agents, certainly on offense, is Javonte Williams, who they will not franchise tag. Obviously, they're saving that for Pickens, so they need to start discussions earlier with Williams, which of course is what they're doing.
A lot of people like George Pickens. I'm a fan of him as well, but overpaying him right now and beginning negotiations right now would be a foolish move from the Dallas Cowboys. But there's also one other aspect I want to hit on that I think is really important as well. Players and agents and employees of all types, and I can speak to my own personal experience, do not like it when negotiations begin or discussions begin when one party, certainly the management side, isn't necessarily 100% excited to get it done. They're just going through the motions. That's something that erodes trust and makes everyone unhappy. It's obvious if the Cowboys began preliminary discussions with Pickens now, Mulligetta and George Pickens would know, of course, because of the franchise tag deadline, that the Cowboys wouldn't be serious. The Cowboys will only become serious when it comes to Pickens towards the end of the franchise tag deadline, and then, of course, around May, June, when they have to make serious decisions about whether Pickens will play on the tag or not. The reality is, until those moments, the Cowboys should not begin any negotiations because Pickens and Mulligetta will correctly understand that. So let the process play out. I think things will work out in the end for Dallas. My guess is one of two things is going to happen. I'd say 40% chance Pickens is tagged and plays on the tag, 40% chance he's tagged and then signs a deal sometime during the offseason, and a 20% chance he's tagged and the Cowboys get 2 number 1s for him. So in that case, 80% chance he plays for the Dallas Cowboys in 2026, and the other 20% is the Cowboys get 2 number 1s. I think things work out well for Dallas regardless of how the turns and things this situation takes. But honestly, this is what I'll be watching every single day, breaking down all the news and keeping you guys updated on everything happening with America's team.